So Barbie's out. It's a hot topic. It's a big movie, really, really big movie. Uh, I wanted to kind of talk about it, not as a criticism, as an understanding. Because as you can see by the title, this video should be called Barbie, uh, children's movies and subtext, or something along those lines. Because I want to talk about contextually and subtextually presenting more adult ideas, and that's not like sex stuff. That's more because that's usually just tongue-in-cheek jokes. It's been doing it from Disney, all kinds of movies for the past 100 odd years. I mean more stuff that's like politically, socially motivated stuff that has like actual real world discussion points, maybe consequences, stuff like that. In this case with Barbie, it's pretty contextual about it. That's about, it's got a very feminist take, and I'd say anti-patriarchy. It's more of a general criticism, which is fine. I don't see it as like some people do, as a anti-men movie, because that's stupid. Why would they do that? But yeah, it's a film that wears its themes on its sleeve. It's very there. It's very in your face. And on the occasion, me even being a guy watching it, just was like me being a film consumer, being someone who understands these themes pretty on the nose. It can seem it's a bit obvious. I can understand it. There's a very particular monologue in the film that's, just screams, "Hey, these are the themes. This is what we're getting across. This is what we're trying to change." And I can understand that. Sometimes you need to actually say something to make a change. That's like the key thing about the movie, which I really respect. Like, it's a message that, sure, while I was listening to it, I'm like, yep, okay, I get this. I don't need this. This doesn't not relate to me. This doesn't emotionally affect me as much, but I understand it. I understand what the movie's doing. I understand what it's going for. I don't need the message to myself, per se, because it's like, I kind of try to live by these standards anyway, but I figure it needs to be said. I'm not going to be like, I don't need that pro-feminist message. I am a feminist. Why would I need that? It's like, it's not for me, But then, of course, you're going to ask, well, what about for children? It is Barbie. It's a movie about toys that are alive and shaped like Margot Robbie. Maybe there's a bit of a, should this be, or is this movie for children? And in all regards, it's still arguably it's a PG movie. Children can watch it. It's based on a children's property, but it mostly aims at this avenue of, you grew up with Barbie. We're going to talk about Barbie. It's not a, hey kids, you like Barbie now. Let's look at her as the real person. It's like, no, if you want a kids Barbie movie, you basically watch the animated movies that they've been putting direct to DVD or streaming or whatever for the past, I don't know, 20 odd years. I'm pretty sure I've seen a few. I've seen them on TV as well. They do that. That's fine. I've had friends and colleagues who have expected the Barbie movie to be Barbie goes on an adventure to Beach Town, and oh no, someone stole her shoes. She needs to look pretty for the prom. That kind of bullshit. And it's like, no, Barbie was never going to be that. It was a big budget movie directed and co-written by Greta Gerwig. It was never going to be a generic toy promotional fodder. Like, it was clearly going to be, as I expected going in, that it was going to be similar to the Lego movie. And in this case, a lot more on the nose about its themes. And I can understand that. And I've seen a lot of people, I've seen people note how, I guess I could just say conservatives, a lot of right-wing media on Twitter, a lot of people like, how dare Barbie make kids think about real-world issues like feminism and stuff. It's like, well, maybe it's necessary. Because sometimes you can't get away with it in subtext. Sometimes you need to emphasize it in the text, straight up. Because subtext is, if you don't know, it's text, but it's sub. It's underneath there. It's usually there's images or character actions, societal stuff in the film. It's there, it's present, but they're not talking about it, but it's there. It's not emphasized, but it's there. It's something you can read into. It's something that's pretty obvious from the mise-en-scène, from the decor, from the characters, from the costuming to the locations. My two examples for this are Chicken Run and the 2005 movie Robots, which is a childhood favorite of mine. I love Chicken Run too. I haven't seen it in such a long time, but I had remembered watching it. It was on maybe a few months ago on Foxtel, and I was like, looking at it, I'm like, this is definitely an allegory for the Holocaust. Allegorical subtext. It's very much there. You don't notice as a kid because you don't know what it is. But at the same time, the messages are still there where it's about people who want freedom from the stuff that they're just not happy being in for very obvious reasons. In this case, if you're looking at Holocaust subtext, you know, it's very there if you're an adult watching it. Very much say, if there's a tongue-in-cheek sex gag in a movie that adults would be like, haha, that's funny in Toy Story when he does that. And now he's got a big dick. I'm trying to remember any kind of sex jokes in any of those movies, but like anything with Bo Peep and Woody. Let's put it that way. Anything with those two. And adults would look at that and be like, oh, I get it, you know. But the kids would be like, I don't understand what's happening, but it's colourful, it's a movie, it's fun. It's like Shrek. A lot of dick jokes, you know. You don't get that as a kid, even if the parents are laughing at it, if the adults are laughing at it, you know. So then there's also Robots. Robots is a movie I've always loved. I've loved it since I first watched it in 2005. And I only kind of thought about it the other day, and I'm like, that's a movie, like, I was thinking, I'm like, Robots isn't a movie that has subtext, it's just about robots. But the movie is inherently about artistic integrity and how, you know, art is dead, long live fascism. Oh my god, the movie's about fascists. It's about fascists. I didn't notice it until I just kind of thought about it a bit and realized, yeah, no, it's pretty goddamn obvious. Like, I always thought there was like kind of like a sexual undertone towards the sleek design steel robots. But then you look at how that's just how they're advertised. Like, literally in an ad that they have for it. Yeah, I want the robots to be sexy. But it's like, they're big corporate people who are literally getting rid of the unwanted kind. It's like, yeah, that seems pretty on the nose. But it's subtext. It's there in the context of the movie because it's what a character is motivated to do. What the evil guy wants to do. Get rid of the disemboweled robots and take them for spare parts and scrap, and then make new, clean, perfect robots, you know. Very Aryan race, if you understand the subtext. It's not emphasized, like, you're not having, like, what was it, The Lion King, where Scar is sitting on that ledge and you see the shadows of all of the, I can't remember what the animal is called, the hyenas that are marching, and it's, like, clearly reminiscent of, like, the Nazis, you know? There's stuff like that. It's subtext. The imagery is there, subtextually providing, oh, this is like that. Scar is evil because he's like Hitler, you know? A lot of it's fascist stuff, a lot of it's Nazi imagery, that kind of stuff, you know? Holocaust. It's the most obvious if you're looking at someone who's evil, who wants to wipe out a portion of society and remake into something else. It's a very obvious choice. Now, you contrast this to Barbie. Does Barbie have something as subtextual as that? And, I mean, there's definitely going to be some forms of subtext there. There's going to be heaps of stuff you can read into here and there. But Barbie didn't really do that. Like, with its main themes about the whole feminist message, even though, to be fair, the whole message of the movie is about identity. The villain of the movie isn't men, it isn't corporations, it isn't women, it isn't the patriarchy, it's identity. The reason these things are there is to build it up together. They all match together like a puzzle, you know? Without the patriarchy, the Kens wouldn't have... They latched onto that as something to give themselves identity, because their identity was, oh, we're here for Barbie, we're to be in love with Barbie, that's our identity. And obviously, the main version of Ken that we get with Ryan Gosling's character, that's what he realizes, that he is not enough as Ken with Barbie. He wants to be more than that, but he doesn't even realize he wants to be that until later in the film. He wants to be with Barbie. He thinks that that's what he's meant to, that's what his purpose. I have to be with Barbie. It's Barbie and Ken. It's the two of us. But you're over there in the high chair doing all your stuff, and I'm sitting here in awe. you know. That's his thing, you know. His journey is to realize that he is, yes, of course, like the jumper he wears at the end of the film, because sometimes, again, nudge nudge, you got to be on the nose about it. He is Knuff. Also, it's a good pun. It's a funny joke, and that'll sell merchandise. You know, pretty simple. Barbie, on the other hand, it's a lot of. There's obviously the feminist stuff, which is actually littered throughout the whole entire film. If you've noticed it, you know, it's emphasized through the opening sequence how, you know, Barbies were invented as a alternative to baby dolls, because dolls for children and for little girls used to be about the eventual, I'm going to be a mother. This is what it's like to treat a baby by making them tea. You know, the slightly unrealistic expectations, but also the expectation that this is my future, taking care of a baby. If I'm doing it now, I'll be doing it again in 20 odd years. Pretty simple. But then you get Barbie, and it's a completely different avenue. This is what I can look forward to in the future. The idea is to promote independence, to promote your own femininity, to promote you to be something more than just mother. Which is still, it's not saying you can't be, it's saying you can be this, you can be that. And of course the varieties of Barbie that you get throughout the movie, of the President Barbie, all the different kinds of Barbie, emphasize that you can be who you want to be, no matter what you are, what you look like, you know, what you sound like, all that kind of jazz. It's, you know, it's emphasizing identity. And that's the point of the movie, because of course our main protagonist Barbie, the stereotypical Barbie, doesn't know what she wants to be. Hence why she thinks about death, but also because she thinks about death because her owner thinks about death. I do like the real world entanglement with that. That's actually kind of cute, because obviously that brings them into the real world to realize, oh, this place is kind of shit. You know? Yeah, it is. That's pretty obvious. The fact that it takes a Barbie movie to really, really emphasize that. And even if, yeah, you'd be asking, well, do younger generations need this? Do little 5-year-old girls need to hear that feminism is good and patriarchy is evil? You know, sometimes, yeah, because sometimes people don't understand the world. And maybe, sure, they won't understand it when they're watching it now, but they watch it over and over again because they're kids. Trust me, I used to do the same. We always used to do the same, especially when DVDs came out. My God, how many times did I watch robots as a kid? I don't know. Did I understand the subtext there? No. Do I understand the subtext now? Yes. You know, I looked at it, understood it, and yeah, I mean, it's already stuff I know. Fascism's bad. That much is obvious. Artistic and creative freedom should be promoted. There we go. You know, that's what's so great about the movie. It's the subtextual stuff that builds the characters, that drives the story. You know, you might not notice it because you're just thinking, oh, it's about robot who wants to be big robot. And then he kind of is, but also is just happy robot. You know, by the end of the movie, he's a happy robot. With Barbie, of course, it's different because it's more, again, explicit. It has to be. I was talking with my girlfriend about this because she was like, does the movie have to be so obvious about it? Does it really have to be so on the nose about its messaging? And I'm like, yeah, I feel like it needed to. Because again, that's the difference with subtext to context. To making something on the nose and screaming it in someone's face. Hey, it kind of sucks to be a woman in society run by men. Sometimes you need to scream it a little because people aren't going to listen if it's just, oh, it's just Barbie movie, what the hell? Like the amount of people who went and saw Barbie because of the Barbenheimer thing, or because, oh, Margot Robbie, or because of Ryan Gosling, or because of Greta Gerwig, especially if, I mean, if you're going for Greta Gerwig, you'd know what the hell you're getting into. It seems pretty obvious. But at the same time, there are bound to be people who, you know, especially adults, who wouldn't expect the movie to be this. And it's not that my girlfriend or my colleagues or whatever thought that it was a bad movie. It's just not what they wanted to see, you know. Not as in we want to see a movie where men dominate. No, they, again, wanted Barbie and Adventureland doing adventures with Ken, whatever, with a romance where they kiss at the end, that kind of jazz. You know, they wanted the stereotypical stuff that you get from most other movies. But again, me knowing that this is Greta Gerwig and, of course, her husband Noah Baumbach, either way, I know what I'm getting into. I'm a film person. I know this stuff, you know. And it allows me to laugh more about the obvious film-related jokes. I know a lot of people got upset about the Godfather joke. I thought it was hilarious because I'd actually watched the Godfather like 2 weeks prior, and like I'm not in love with the film. I think it's good, but I'm like, I'm not gonna like. I understood exactly what they were going for with that take. I'm like, yeah, we do that as filmmakers. Like that's Godfather isn't that for me, but that's a very broad thing, especially for American viewers because they love the Godfather. Whereas for me, it would be something like, I don't know, maybe Alien or Blade Runner 2049 or The Thing. You know, I've got my films where it's like that. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, stuff like that, where that's what I would be doing. But to be fair, I also can distance myself. You know, I don't like living up to the meme of, I'm going to watch this film and introduce it to my partner and then also explain all the references, like in Lord of the Rings, how an Aragorn... See what I mean? I'm not going to do that. But I could, and I do sometimes. We all do. Let's be honest, I'm not doing it all the time. We're not all safe from this, but it's a funny gag. The fact that people got upset is even funnier. Hooray for Letterboxd. So, anyway, what does that have to do with subtext and context? It's about identity. These are people. This is what they do. This is how we identify them. You know? Sometimes it's just horses. Sometimes it's people in suits controlling an industry that's realistically meant to be pro-feminist and sometimes just isn't. And the movie understands that. It's the point of Barbie. It's not just the whole identity thing, but it's also the movie looking at Barbie as a product and looking at how it's developed since its release, since its initial conception, why it exists, who it catered for, did it change anything, how is it perceived in current day. It's tackled all those things, and I think quite nicely too. Like, that's like almost the main narrative as a product, as a Barbie Mattel product trademark, you know? And I like how they do that. It's interesting to see that kind of take place, because like I contrast this a lot in my mind to like the Lego movie, which doesn't really do that. You know, sure, the point of that movie was how you should be able to just, again, much like with robots, the whole creative freedom. It's your stuff, it's your toys, you should be able to do what you want, because the evil bad guy wants to glue all the sets together so that you can't play with them, because Lego aren't for children anymore, they're for adults. Though in retrospect, I really admire how Lego has actually released like adult collections, like the whole I think they called it R18 sets. I don't know, but like they've labeled it that. Like these are for adult collectors, you know, like the Batmobile from 1989, stuff like that. So that's fun, you know. I don't think a kid's gonna play with that, but to be fair, I remember playing with a Lego ship from Star Wars, from the Clone Wars that I had bought and it was expensive, and my dad and my brother built it, despite me wanting to build it, and I never got to play with it because it was put in my brother's room. Does anyone remember the fact that I bought this? I bought it to play with the minifigures. To be fair, I still play with the minifigures. I don't know where those minifigures are anymore because they're not with the set. But it does annoy me, and I still think about that, you know? And look, in all fairness, I know I might be mentioning Lego, but I did grow up with Barbie as well. I think I definitely had at least 2 different Barbies growing up. I don't know why, I just did. But I did like her purse with the accessories. That was always fun. The other one I had was a mermaid one. So yes, of course, when Dua Lipa was announced as mermaid one, I'm like, okay then. And then when John Cena was announced as mermaid Barbie, I'm also like, okay then. You know? It's fun. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing that Barbie is on the nose with its, you know, ideas. It needs to be. You know? I don't think it would have helped if the movie was just subtextually about this, you know, because obviously a lot more people, I feel like, especially more right-wing people, more anti-feminist, I always go with the right-wing general bubble of description because it's usually an American thing. But it's like, if it was more subtext, would they have picked it up? Well, still, yes, and they would have still complained about it. I think the fact that it's context, it's on the nose, that even though you're still watching a movie about Barbie, it's still a movie about something important. You know, it's not just Toy the movie. This is a movie about you know, the female experience, about female history, about representation, about identity. You know, it's about a lot of that stuff. Sure, it's not focused solely, like, even strongly on men. The fact that people are annoyed because, oh, the men are all dumb and whatever. No, it's, you just got Ken, and he's not a representation of real world men. You know, he's a representation of just that stereotype of attractive, hot guy who Barbie may or may not go out with. Because it depends if you bought him in the set or whatever, I don't know. But still, it's like, he was never really meant to be anything more than just Barbie's boyfriend. That's his delineating fact there. And the fact that it's not a commentary on men, it's a commentary on just... I mean, to be fair, you could actually still subtextually see it as a commentary on men for their lack of individuality. Which, again, is an identity thing, and I still dig that. Like, if you want to see this as a commentary on men, then you can see it as a commentary on how men have, in some case, a attachment problem, you know, where they will look at, whether it be romantic or not, a person and just attach themselves and think, you are my identity, you are my, you know, extension. You are, yeah, the extension to me. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you need to understand boundaries. You need to understand that you need to be your own person. You know, go on vacation by yourself for like a couple of days. I don't know. Go see the White Cliffs of Dover. What's it like? Send me a picture. You know, I'm gonna stay home and watch some movies. You go have some fun. You know, I don't think it's very strong on that kind of stuff. But again, I could watch the movie again and see a lot more that it's discussing, even if it's, again, through subtext, because it's mostly about the identity of Ken and how is he enough of a person by himself? Does he know how to understand just being himself? You know, how to delineate himself from Barbie without it being something not just toxic, but also something that's beneficial to other people, you know, that's beneficial to himself, that makes him, in this case, happy. You know, he emphasizes the point in the movie how he thought patriarchy was about horses because he liked the horses. And no, it was because horses helped to emphasize men on horses as a symbol of power, which is patriarchy, you know, power over other people, usually in this case against women for the most part. So yeah, it's interesting looking at a film like this and seeing it talk about these kind of angles. I was completely shocked that it actually did. Like, it's a Barbie movie, you know? I know it's Greta Gerwig and everything, it's going to be about identity, but the fact that it's so heavily talking about this kind of stuff, it's remarkable. And the fact that it can still be a interesting, informative, educational, fun movie for both adults and for children. Shock horror, imagine movies that can do that. It's great. It's cinema. So yeah, I think people complaining about Barbie being that way, I think people complain about Barbie being so pro-feminist and whatever, go away. But people who, like my girlfriend, like my colleague, who had expectations of a different kind of movie, again, the Barbie Goes on Adventure, I can understand that. Because you know, I grew up playing Barbie. She went on an adventure with Ken. They had a dog. It pooped a lot. You know, I can understand that. I can understand if people thought that's what the movie was going to be, but instead it was not. But at the same time, you can also just kind of look at the trailer, and given they've got the whole dance number and she emphasizes, does anyone else think about death? Yeah, shit, maybe there's actually themes in this movie that we're going to be discussing and they're kind of heavy. You know, the movie's not about the death, but it's about discovering what exactly you are and what makes you tick, you know, and what you want to be. Doesn't mean you want to die, it just means that you want to find some kind of happiness in some form or another, even if that's influenced by other people to some degree. As in the fact that she hasn't, like, the girl who owns her, the woman who owns the doll that is her, you know, trying to find happiness in her own life. So, yeah. It's good. It's a good message that will be promoted and prompted more throughout rewatches, especially for younger kids. Because again, imagine those kids now watching this, not completely understanding it. give it 5 years or something. I'm imagining that they're 5-year-old kids, but imagine, they're in their early teens and they're still thinking about Barbie. Maybe they watch it again, or like these ideas of feminism and empowerment and identity become a big, much more prominent thing, especially in your teens. And maybe even you're in your teens and you're watching this movie and you're like, oh, okay, these things set in. You understand them. You are able to help identify and understand and change yourself in a better light because you understand things more, because you happen to watch a movie when you were a child about Barbie that happened to actually be about identity, So, yeah, I think it's really bold of them to do that, and in a good way. So, because again, if it was subtext only, then you could watch it again 10, 15 years later and be like, oh wow, I didn't realize Chicken Run was about the Holocaust, But Barbie being about feminism, and about identity, it's there. It's in your face. It's the point, You can also have fun on the way, but sometimes there are different kind of roadblocks you don't expect. Anyway, here's a white guy explaining Barbie. So, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because, again, you look at kids' films or family films and their context and their subtext. This is about Barbie going to the real world to find her owner and find out why are you so sad. Like, how can you describe Barbie as a narrative film without talking about its themes? You look at robots, it's kind of the same thing. Like, there's obviously still the character journey you focus on robots being about a robot who wants to be an artist. He wants to meet his idol. And it turns out, and work for his idol, get a job in that industry. And it turns out, no, they're actually run by fascists. And your idol is in a bloody dump somewhere. And he's gone loony. But he's also voiced by Mel Brooks. So it kind of makes sense. Also fart jokes. I don't know. Look, sometimes you got to make the kids laugh. Though I still find that scene at night when they're all fighting to be quite funny. Anyway, that's just me. Barbie doesn't do that. They have different kinds of jokes and wonderful musical numbers. So yeah. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I kind of feel like some people will still be angry at how, oh my god, how dare Barbie be about something? Oh no. It is what it is. But still, I would suggest check out the film with this understanding in mind. And it'll be interesting to see if other films take this avenue. I'd say mostly family, kid films and stuff like that, especially given how they're trying to make Polly Pocket the movie and stuff like that. And it's like, clearly they're just doing it for money and not thinking of the artistic integrity. So, yeah. But ballsy of them to actually do a movie that has, artistic integrity. So, and themes. And isn't just about Barbie going on an adventure to Dreamland. So, yeah. Anyway, off to Dreamland. See you next time.